Maryland travels to the Fiserv Forum to take on Marquette, a Golden Eagles team that got beat down at the hands of Indiana, but rebounded nicely earlier in the week, getting a 40-point victory over Little Rock. I'm joined by Matt Maderno, a Maryland fan, and I'm excited to talk about the Terps with you just because they're sort of in an interesting position this year, of course, with Buzz in as his first year as the head coach. You have someone like Darius Adams, who I think has shown flashes of dare I say stardom. There have been times where you see like I would say the burst he has on this team is really unlike anyone else, but still has plenty of freshman mistakes. I thought that was kind of on display against Georgetown. You
Yeah,
saw the
for sure.
highs and the lows all in one performance, but then you have Pharrell Payne anchoring the paint, a holdover from the Texas A&M Buzz era. You're still seeing some of those standards of a classic Buzz Williams team with how they get on the offensive glass. They're going to throw weird defenses at you. Probably a little bit of a work in progress, but Matt, I want to hear from you. What do you think of this team so far, and what do you need to see out of them in this game?
I desperately need to see Miles Rice on the court. I really think that's the difference maker in this one. He played in the Georgetown game, albeit came off the bench, but I thought he was huge for them against tough perimeter defenders from Georgetown. Did not play in their most recent game here early in the week against Alcorn State. Was back in a boot on the sidelines, which you never want to see. I'm assuming it's precautionary. I expect him to play. But playing a Marquette team that's going to trap you and press you and all kinds of different, pressure defenses or havoc defenses, you just have to have a competent ball handler. And even against Alcorn State, there was no one on Maryland who could break their press other than David Diggy Coit by himself. Everyone else looks scared to dribble. So if they don't have Rice, I think it's going to be tough. Solomon Washington is finally out of the boot, so having him back sooner rather than later would help too. But they just seem like they're down two starters, and they essentially are. So getting those guys back, maybe kind of puts them over the top.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I would even say it seems like turnovers have been a theme
Yeah.
throughout Maryland's early part of the season.
Yeah,
You know,
17
you,
against Alcorn State, like that's brutal.
yeah, that's really tough. Maybe you attribute some of that to SWAC teams always want to play
Yeah,
fast and
they're
they always force a
sure.
bunch of turnovers. But even the game before against Georgetown, I mean, 4 assists to 13 turnovers, insane ratio. You never want to see that, especially in a double-digit loss. I think that kind of tells the story of the game right there. But beyond just the inconsistent minutes from Miles Rice and not knowing if he's at full health or what you're going to get out of him, is there anything else that you attribute these turnovers to? Like, would you say if you were talking to your fellow Maryland fans, would you give them any cause for hope outside of Miles Rice?
I think it's just three freshmen having to go through early season growing pains. I don't think really they expected Guillermo Del Pino to have to start games, let alone play the minutes he's played in a couple of them now. Granted, in the Georgetown game, he played 2 minutes, got stripped at midcourt on the first possession, and then basically never played again. But
Uh-huh.
in some of these other games, he's had to play pretty heavy minutes, and that was someone they talked about as a potential redshirt candidate. You've got Andre Mills, who's been really good. He was great against Alcorn State, but not really a ball handling guard who's forced to do
Mhm.
more of that. So it's just a few guys that are kind of out over their skis. I think somebody like Darius Adams probably just needed more time to maybe learn off the bench and some of the veteran guys that you expected to be better just aren't. Like David Coit hasn't shot particularly well. Isaiah Watts has just been bad, like flat out bad. And he's been wearing a mask because of a broken nose. So like maybe that's throwing off the shooting a little bit. But just these guys you thought would be like the stabilizing forces haven't done it. So asking everyone else to kind of pick up the slack and move up a couple spots in the pecking order, I think has like really hurt them.
Yeah, I think in terms of Isaiah Watts, you clearly got the wrong Watts brother from Washington State. They aren't related,
Yeah,
are they?
I don't think so. No, but that'd
In
been
my
cool. That's a
in
hell
my
of a
mind,
family.
I'm just gonna say they're related. So,
Grandson is Slick Watts, former ABA veteran. So
wow.
go look that one up later if people get
So
bored.
he at least has some pedigree, but
Exactly.
yeah, this is a spot here where I mean Marquette, it's interesting. Like you have kind of I mean two teams that I would say are at a similar point in their
Yeah.
season where they've looked good in some bye games. Both of these coaches have distinct styles of play that can be frustrating for any opponent on any given night.
Hmm.
And yet, the one power conference opponent that both have played so far kind of laid an egg in both. Now,
Yeah.
granted, Maryland at least kept it competitive with Georgetown, all things considered. Like
Sure.
it sort of felt like Georgetown went in control early that second half and never looked back. But the
Yeah.
final margin of defeat wasn't terrible. Whereas like Marquette just looked completely overmatched against Indiana. But I think this is the type of game where you get some questions answered in terms of, both are going to be relying heavily on freshmen. Marquette has that big freshman class that's already seeing
Mhm.
crazy minutes right away. New pieces for the Terps as well. I am very curious to see like how do they handle that Marquette pressure this time around. However, I will say like just those weird defenses that Buzz can throw at you. This Marquette team is still a unit that's relying on Chase Ross as I would say, a primary creator
Yeah.
for the first time in his career. Nigel James Jr. It seems like Marquette fans are enamored by his game, and obviously played at Long Island Lutheran, so has
Mhm.
quite the pedigree. Played with a lot of stars like Dylan Mingo, for example, and has played a lot of high level basketball. And their other freshman, Adrian, oh my gosh, why is his last name blanking? Adrian Stevens.
Yeah,
He
he's from
like
the DC area too. So all the Maryland guys, well, actually, there's no Maryland guys on the Maryland team. I was going to say the local guys on our roster might know him, but not really. So
Yeah, yeah. I saw. I mean, he played at the Bullis School,
he's
another
good.
high level
Yeah.
school. Like their freshmen have played big games throughout their career, and I think have both had some nice moments so
Mhm.
far. But yeah, it's like I still think in terms of what does Buzz have up his sleeve that he could maybe throw to confound some of these players, either new to college basketball or stepping into new roles. And even to that point, like what have you seen out of this Maryland defense so far? I know they're top 20 in KenPom right now on the defensive end. Do you think that's just a little bit preseason bias baked in, or have you been impressed by them on that side of the floor?
It's definitely been the better side of the floor. I mean, the bar is pretty low. The offense has not been great here, but they've done a pretty good job of limiting folks around the basket, which is what they want to do. They want to make sure you don't get to the middle of the defense. They want to make sure you don't score around the rim. They've been mostly pretty good against that. They were a little worse against Georgetown, which I think made the difference. But you basically have to shoot well to beat this Maryland team, I think, and they're going to give up some threes, especially if they can make it so you're shooting unsettled threes. And Marquette so far is only about like 25% from three as a team, so or low, or high 20s, low 30s. So it's not a particularly like trademark skill set for this Marquette group. So I think this actually slightly favors Maryland, a muck it up kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland struggled to score, like we alluded to there, but Marquette's really kind of struggled to stop people. They gave up only 53 points to UAlbany, but 82 points to Southern. I wasn't sure that was a real school before I saw that result. 100 points to Indiana. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great shooting Indiana team, but you got to think Maryland can get up maybe into the 80s, and at that point, their defense should kick in enough to maybe get some separation.
I think that's a good point. Like even going back and watching some clips from that game against Little Rock, you saw some of the textbook like Shaka
Yeah.
defensive principles where you have guards. Like again, these two freshmen both really get after it on
Mhm.
that end. That was kind of their sell coming in. They're both 6'4", 6'5", and have that
Yeah.
college ready frame. I mean, they like I saw Marquette fans were already comparing Adrian Stevens to Stevie Mitchell, and I think that's like
Mhm.
really high praise coming from
Yeah,
that fan
that's
base
great.
in
Yeah,
terms of
they
what they're
love it.
looking for. But again, even with guards who can get out and hound you, as long as Ben Gold is there, I'm always going to have questions about this interior
Yeah.
defense. That's just how it is. I know that he's improved. I know that he's like become a better rebounder, but I mean they do have a 7 footer behind him. Joshua Clark, Caden Hamilton as well is getting more burn. Who was with the team last year, didn't play a ton, but is stepping into a bigger role, and he has decent size too. At least has a little bit of bulk on him, but to me, it's like Oso Ighodaro is not walking through that door, and I
Exactly.
think that was sort of the Achilles heel for Marquette last year was just getting hemorrhaging points in the paint, and it doesn't matter how many turnovers that you. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Like, yes, you're going to gamble and force some turnovers, but if you can put enough competent ball handling on the court, they can beat that. And then on top of it, I would say, like, I mean, you hinted at it. Buzz and his teams are very, very comfortable playing games in the 50s or
Yeah,
games in the
they're built for that.
60s.
Exactly. So I think that's the biggest thing Maryland has going for them is maybe their style is not the best fit for this particular Marquette group. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
throw it in and just let Pharrell Payne do his thing, and he's been terrific this year. And the biggest thing for him is a career 52% free throw shooter. That's been just like his worst performance so far this year is 6 for 8 in this most recent game. So like he's night and day better. Ben Gold is gonna have to foul him, and he's really like the only stretch option for them offensively too. So if Gold has to pick up a couple cheap fouls, I think that hurts them. He's been their best rebounder here so far. So having him come off the court is really their tallest guy that's going to play a ton of minutes. I think would hurt them a lot. So if I'm
Yeah.
Maryland, I'm going to Payne early and often, and
Mm-hmm.
just he's also shown like he doesn't seem to fatigue. The guy's playing 30 plus minutes every night after playing only 20 last year, and looks just as good at the end of games as he did at the start. So they're just going to have to lean on him super heavy in this one. And Riley, you were talking about it before. I think this is like almost a must-win game for both of these teams, as
Yeah.
stupid as that may sound, but like you've got Shaka, like everybody's kind of questioning the no transfer portal thing. Like they need to beat like a real team at some point
Mhm.
here. And for Maryland, like the fan base might be as low on Maryland basketball as they've been in quite a while since like
Mm.
they ran I'll say we ran Mark Turgeon out of town.
Mm.
So like Buzz could use a signature win and beating his old team, I think would be a way to do that.
For sure. And even I mean just looking at the Maryland schedule, you play Gonzaga on November 25th. I think you're going to chalk that one up to a loss just
That's
based
tough.
on how
That's tough.
Gonzaga
Yeah.
is guarding guys right now.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
as good as Pharrell Payne is offensively, probably give up a lot to
Yeah.
Graham Ike. And gosh, those guards have looked really good too. But that's sort of like your last chance for a marquee
hmm
non-conference win. That's not part of a tournament. Is
No,
that
it's a players era. So they play
oh
UNLV the first night and then Gonzaga and then mystery third team after that. So
that's on me. Bad prep.
no, all good.
I just was looking at the schedule and didn't. Yeah, I think I just sort of default to there are no more non-conference tournaments
Right,
because
exactly.
Maui and Atlantis both stink.
That's the only
But
one. It's players era. And how Maryland got in there is literally just because Buzz knew some people at the start of the tournament. So we kind of backdoored our way in at this point.
maybe my assumption should be like if I see a half decent power conference team that's playing another like good power conference team, you should just assume it's players era like
Next
around
year, for sure,
Thanksgiving.
if they
So
double the field, it'll just basically
yeah.
be all of Power Five playing each other.
So anyway, this is like the last chance to what I would say is get a winnable one unless you play, an inferior opponent that for
Mhm.
that mystery third game right now. So I think this could be something. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but like you win this game, I think Marquette still carries enough cachet
Yeah,
that the fan base has a little bit of. There's gonna be some buzz, no pun intended, but some buzz and some excitement around that, and. I'll give you what I'm looking forward to, like what I even want to see in terms of a key to victory. I think I want to keep seeing them get Darius Adams involved.
sure.
I mentioned it at the start, but I just think like you saw he had one of his buckets in the Georgetown game. It's like his acceleration, deceleration. He has a gear that no one else on this team has. I love that he already has one game under his belt of shooting double digit free throws. I want to see him continue to get downhill and not force too many jumpers because, again, on the other end of the spectrum, you saw him just take some really dumb shots against Georgetown. But I think that should get refined, even though Buzz has never been super prudent about what kind of shots his guards could take. But he's someone I really want to see get going. And then, like you said, if they feed Pharrell Payne, I think they should come out of here with the victory. But what do you think Maryland needs to do in order to get the dub?
And the Adams one is a great call. He looked a little more comfortable against the second half of this game against Alcorn State. Like they just started feeding him the ball, and Buzz reamed him out at a timeout early in the second half. Adams comes in, hits two threes right after. He had not made a three in a Maryland jersey yet, so that was nice to see he actually could make one, and the rim wasn't totally broken for him. But that's a great pull. Like he's just more talented than a lot of these guys. So if they can build his confidence, get him some actual downhill driving lanes with some other shooters around him to give a little space, I think that'd be huge too. So th that's a great point. But for me, it's come down to like, does Miles Rice play, and can he
Mm.
kind of single-handedly beat a lot of this pressure? And actually, David Coit hitting a few shots would be nice here too. He's been a little underwhelming as a jump shooter here so far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll end by just hearing your prediction. Who do you think wins this one? What do you think the score shakes out
I
as?
promise it's not a homer take because I did predict the Georgetown victory there by about the margin they won by. So I'm gonna say Maryland by 8. I just kind of like the stylistic matchup here, and again, that is assuming Rice plays. If he doesn't, I would probably lean slightly Marquette on that one. How about you, Riley?
I'm gonna go with Maryland as well, and there's part of me that wants to lean fully into the slop and just say it's a
Nice.
54-50 bloodbath.
I like that.
But to your point about Marquette ceding a lot of points, I'll say it ends up being like 77-70 for Maryland, but should be an entertaining one. Hopefully, you get to see some of these young dudes grow up on both for both teams, and we'll be back afterwards breaking it all down.